My name is Naomi Ellis. I'm 30 years old, and I used to think holidays were supposed to be loud, messy, joyful, until I met my boyfriend's family. By the time last December rolled around, I'd learned better. Kyle and I had been together for 4 years. We weren't married, but we might as well have been. Shared apartment, shared bills, shared life, and now a 6-month-old daughter named Lily, who thought 3 a.m. was party time. Our relationship was strong, but it had always been tested by one thing: his family. They didn't just like traditions, they worshiped them. Everything had a rule, everything had a schedule, everything had a string attached. Kyle's mother, Karen, ran the holidays like a military operation with a side of emotional blackmail. If you didn't fall in line, you weren't just busy, you were ungrateful, disrespectful, a disappointment. This year, all of that collided with the fact that we were exhausted new parents. I swear we could just stay home, I told Kyle one night, bouncing Lily on my shoulder while she fussed. Have our own tiny Christmas. No dress code, no assigned seating, no guilt. He ran a tired hand through his hair, eyes soft. I know. I've been thinking about it too. It's just, you know how my mom is. She'll act like we blew up the house. The thing is, he wasn't exaggerating. On top of that, there was Jessica, his older sister, and, as Kyle once jokingly called her, his primary rival for favorite child. Except the joke had stopped being funny once I saw it was true. Jessica had just gone through a nasty divorce. According to the family group chat, this year's holiday wasn't about Christmas. It was about supporting Jess through this devastating time. I didn't begrudge her that. Divorce is hard. But Karen had a way of turning everyone else into background props, so Jessica could shine as the star victim. Still, I bit my tongue. I wasn't the type to stir the pot. I just wanted a quiet, stress-free day for once, which already made me delusional. The invitation came early, like always. A long, detailed message in the family thread. House open from 12 o'clock p.m. to 12 o'clock a.m. No early arrivals, no late arrivals. Sign up for dishes here. Please note correct portion size so no one is left out. XOXO, Karen. Kyle and I got stuck with the turkey, the centerpiece, the make or break dish. If it was too dry, too cold, too late, everyone would know who ruined Christmas. Of course, I muttered, reading the message. We've barely slept in 6 months. Let's also take on the most stressful dish. Kyle kissed the top of my head. We'll manage. I'll help, I promise. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe all of this would somehow be normal. But as the date crept closer, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, like a pressure building behind a wall that was about to crack. That feeling got a name a month before the holiday. A text from Karen. It started innocent enough. Hi, sweetie. Just wanted to remind you about the holiday plans. We are all so excited to have you and Lily here. Just a heads up, though, there might be a bit of a change to the seating arrangements. I'll explain soon. I frowned at my screen. Change to the seating arrangements? Whatever. Maybe she was shuffling chairs to make room for more people. I had bigger things to worry about, like the fact that Lily had just discovered her lungs. I forgot about it, until later that night, when my phone buzzed again. Actually, after some thought, I think it would be best if you and Lily could leave after dinner. I know this may sound strange, but I really want Jessica to feel like she has some space to decompress from her divorce. She's been through so much, and I think it's important for her mental health. My stomach dropped. I read it once, twice, a third time, because surely I was misunderstanding. Leave after dinner. Take my baby and leave so Jessica could decompress. As if my daughter's existence was disruptive. As if I were some side character who needed to exit stage left so the real lead could have her emotional monologue. A hot, shaky anger climbed up my chest. I typed slowly, forcing my thumbs not to jab the keyboard. Karen, I'm not sure what you mean. It's a family holiday. Are you asking me to leave after dinner so Jessica can have more space? Her reply was almost instant, like she'd been waiting for the question. Yes, exactly. I know it might feel uncomfortable, but I really think it's for the best. She needs time to regroup, and it's important we're all here for her. For the best, for her mental health. Not a single word about how I'd just had a baby, how I might need support, how I might also be exhausted and fragile and hanging on by a thread. Karen had always prioritized Jessica, but this was different. This wasn't passive favoritism. This was a decision, a choice. She was choosing to push me and my daughter out so Jessica could feel more comfortable. I sat on the couch, phone in hand, staring at the glowing screen while Lily's soft breathing came through the baby monitor. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. Oh. I didn't respond. Not right away. Kyle got home not long after, smelling like cold air and engine oil, his cheeks pink from the wind. He showered, changed into a t-shirt, and walked back into the living room, his easygoing smile fading the moment he saw my face. "Hey," he said carefully, "what happened?" I held my phone out to him with numb fingers. "Read this." He took it, brows knitting together as his eyes scanned the messages. The longer he read, the darker his expression became. It was like watching a cloud swallow the sun. When he finally looked up, there was no confusion in his eyes, just disbelief and anger. "She wants you to leave," he said slowly, "with Lily, so Jessica can decompress?" I nodded, my throat tight. Apparently we're too much. His jaw flexed. Kyle wasn't the type to explode. He usually tried to smooth things over, calm everyone down. That was the role he'd played his whole life. Peacemaker son. Mediator between his overbearing mother and the rest of the world. But right then, I watched something in him snap. "No," he muttered. "No, I'm done." He grabbed his phone, moving toward the living room window, the city lights reflecting off the glass. He dialed his mother and hit speaker. My heart pounded as the line rang. Karen picked up on the third ring, her voice bright. "Hi, honey. Are you excited for—" "We're not coming," Kyle said, his tone ice cold. It was a voice I'd never heard from him before. There was a beat of stunned silence on the other end. "Excuse me?" Karen asked, sounded brittle. "We're not coming," he repeated. "Not for dinner, not to stay over, not at all." "Kyle, don't be ridiculous. You and Naomi—" "You asked my girlfriend and my daughter to leave after dinner," he cut in, "so Jessica could have space. Do you have any idea how insulting that is?" Her voice rose. "I was just trying to think of Jessica's mental health. She's going through a divorce. She needs support. The baby cries, people need rest. And Naomi just went through childbirth," he snapped. "She's barely sleeping. She's still recovering, but you didn't think about her, did you? She doesn't get support. She gets instructions." I held my breath. Kyle kept going, each word sharper than the last. "Naomi is the mother of my child. She is my family. Lily is my family. If they're not welcome for the whole holiday, then neither am I. I'm not going to let you treat them like inconveniences so Jessica can be the main character again." "On the other end," Karen sputtered, "you're overreacting. This is about being considerate." "No," Kyle said quietly. "This is about respect, something you clearly don't have for Naomi or Lily. We're not coming. And unless you're ready to apologize to her directly, don't expect me to pretend everything is fine." There was a sharp inhale, like she'd been slapped. For once, she had no quick comeback. Kyle didn't wait. "I am done letting you dictate our lives," he finished. "This isn't up for discussion." He hung up. The silence that followed felt thick, almost physical. My heart hammered in my chest, the reality of what had just happened slowly settling over me. Kyle stared at his phone for a second, then turned back to me. The anger in his features softened when he saw my face. He crossed the room in a few strides and pulled me into his arms. I pressed my forehead against his chest, feeling the steady thump of his heartbeat beneath my cheek. "I've got you," he murmured into my hair. "I've got you and Lily. I'm not letting anyone treat you like you don't matter, not even my mother." Tears stung my eyes, a tangled mix of relief and grief. He'd just drawn a line in the sand with the woman who'd raised him. For me. For our daughter. Are you sure?" I whispered. "About not going?" He pulled back just enough to look me in the eyes, his expression steady. "I've never been more sure," he said. "We'll have our own holiday. Just us. No rules, no guilt trips, no one kicking you out of your own family. Our own holiday." For the first time since Karen's text, the knot in my stomach eased a little. But as I laid awake that night, listening to Lily's soft breaths through the monitor and Kyle's quiet snores beside me, one thought lingered like a shadow at the edge of the room. Karen wasn't the type to back down. If this was the opening shot, the real war hadn't even started yet. For a couple of days after Kyle hung up on his mother, the apartment felt strangely quiet. Not peaceful exactly, more like that heavy silence right before a storm hits, the air tense, expectant, full of things unsaid. Kyle went back to work. I changed diapers, warmed bottles, reheated coffee 3 times before actually drinking it. On the surface, life moved on. But every time my phone buzzed, my stomach twisted, bracing for Karen's name on the screen. She didn't call, not once. I should have been relieved, but the silence felt wrong. Karen didn't do quiet. She did lectures, guilt, tears, dramatic sighs. Not this. 3 days after the call, my phone lit up with a name I hadn't expected. Dave, Kyle's dad. For a second, I just stared at it. Dave was the quiet one, the man who sat at the head of the table at holidays and mostly watched things happen while Karen orchestrated everyone like a choir. He talked about work, football, the weather. He didn't wade into emotional battles. I hesitated, then answered. Hello? Naomi, he said, and his voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. Hey, I hope I didn't catch you at a bad time. Lily was napping in her crib, the apartment blessedly still. No, it's okay, I said cautiously. Is everything all right? There was a small pause, then a sigh. I wanted to talk about what happened, the holiday, your message from Karen, and Kyle's call. Ah, there it was. My shoulders tensed automatically. Okay, I said slowly. What about it? I'm sorry, he said, the words landing heavy, for how she spoke to you. For thinking it was acceptable to ask you to leave after dinner with the baby. It wasn't right. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. Karen never apologized. She explained. She justified. But this wasn't Karen. This was Dave, sounding like he'd aged 10 years overnight. I appreciate you saying that, I managed. It really hurt, to see in writing how little we mattered compared to Jessica's comfort. I know. He exhaled again, long and tired. You've been part of this family for years now. You carried our granddaughter, you're raising her, and you've bent over backward trying to keep the peace. You didn't deserve that, Naomi. Neither did Lily. Hearing him say her name, Lily, like she actually mattered, loosened something tight in my chest. I always thought you didn't notice, I admitted quietly. How Karen treats Jessica like the center of the universe and everyone else like orbiting planets. He let out a humorless chuckle. I noticed. Trust me, I just let it go on longer than I should have. That's on me. There was another pause, the kind that felt like he was choosing his next words carefully. I called to tell you something, he continued. Karen doesn't know yet, but I've made a decision. My heart thumped. What kind of decision? I've canceled the holiday, he said. For a second, I honestly thought I'd misheard him. You, what? The whole thing, he repeated. I've called your aunts, your uncles, the cousins, told them it's off. There won't be a big gathering this year. I stood up without realizing it, one hand braced on the kitchen counter. The world felt slightly tilted. Dave, you don't have to do that because of us, I said. I don't want to be the reason. You're not the reason, he cut in gently but firmly. Karen's behavior is. Asking you to leave so Jessica could have space? Talking about your baby like she's some kind of disruption? No, I'm not pretending that's okay and then sitting at the head of the table like everything's fine. I sank back into the chair, legs weak. In all my mental scripts of how this could go, Kyle's dad quietly detonating Christmas was not one of them. Are you sure? I asked. You know she's going to blame me anyway. Oh, she already does, he said dryly. But she can yell at me this time. I'm the one canceling, not you. I told her that if she couldn't treat you and Lily with basic respect, then she could enjoy a quiet house, because there wouldn't be a holiday to preside over. I couldn't help it. I laughed. A short, stunned sound that felt almost hysterical. Dave, the man who hated confrontation, had finally drawn his own line. That must have gone over well, I muttered. You'd be surprised, he said, at how quiet someone gets when they realize they pushed too far. We spoke for a few more minutes. I explained exactly what Karen had texted me, how clinical and entitled it had sounded, how small it had made me feel. He listened without interrupting, without defending her, which somehow hurt and healed at the same time. I can't fix everything overnight, he said finally, but I can say this. I won't stand by and watch her treat you that way again. If she wants a relationship with you, she's going to have to earn it. After we hung up, I sat in the stillness of our living room, phone in my lap, heart pounding. I didn't know what stunned me more, the canceled holiday or the fact that someone on that side of the family had finally said out loud that what Karen did was wrong. When Kyle came home that evening, I met him at the door. You're home early, I said. Got cut loose, he replied, shrugging off his jacket. What's up? You look like you've just seen a ghost. Your dad called, I said. He froze halfway through kicking off his shoes. And he canceled the holiday. Kyle stared at me. You're kidding. Nope, I shook my head. Told everyone it's off. Said he wasn't going to make us show up after what your mom said to me. Said he's done pretending it's okay. For a moment, Kyle just stood there, processing. Then he let out a slow breath, almost a laugh, but not quite. I never thought I'd see the day, he murmured. Dad actually standing up to Mom. He crossed the room and pulled me into a hug, his chin resting on the top of my head. Good. I'm glad we're not the only ones drawing a line. I wished I could say that was the end of it. It wasn't. 2 days later, at 1:13 a.m., my phone lit up on the nightstand. I squinted at the screen, eyes burning. Karen. Of course. I opened the messages and watched them stack one after another, a rapid-fire assault. I hope you're happy. You've ruined everything. If you had just been a little more flexible, we wouldn't be in this mess. Jessica is devastated. Your baby doesn't need to be around adults all night anyway. You've turned Kyle against his family. My pulse pounded in my ears. I scrolled, jaw tightening. You've blown this way out of proportion. I only asked you to leave so people could rest. Nobody can relax with a crying infant. Lily is just a baby. She won't even remember these holidays. Jessica will. And then, the one that made my vision blur for a second. You should have never brought that baby into such a tense situation anyway. This is partly your fault. That baby. Not my granddaughter, not Lily. That baby. As if she were a noise complaint. My hands shook so hard I had to put the phone down. I sat there on the edge of the bed, the glow of the screen painting the room in cold light, my heart pounding in my throat. Beside me, Kyle stirred. Naomi? His voice was groggy, concerned. What's wrong? I picked the phone back up and wordlessly handed it to him. I watched his expression change in slow motion as he read. Sleepy confusion, then anger, then something darker. Disgust, maybe. She really said this about Lily? He whispered. About you? That's how she sees us, I said, my voice shaking. Inconvenient, disposable, something to schedule around. The last thread of patience inside me snapped. I took the phone back and opened a new message. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a moment, then started moving on their own. Karen, let me be very clear. The words came like water finally breaking through a dam. You don't get to talk about my daughter like she's an inconvenience. You don't get to ask me to leave your house early so your other child can decompress and then act like I'm overreacting. Lily is not a problem to be managed. She is your granddaughter, and if you see her as anything less than a blessing, then you don't deserve to be in her life. From this point on, you will not see Lily. I am not bringing her around someone who openly says she shouldn't be there. If you want to be in our lives, it starts with an apology and a complete change in how you treat us. Otherwise, we're done. I read it twice, the words steady and brutal and true. Too harsh? I asked quietly, looking at Kyle. He shook his head without hesitation. Send it. I hit send. The message whooshed away, and the silence that followed felt sharp, electric. Minutes later, her reply came in. You're being dramatic. I was only trying to help Jessica. You're making this personal when it isn't. The baby would have been fine at home. You're punishing me for caring about my daughter. I stared at the screen, at the word the baby again, and felt nothing. No anger, no urge to defend myself, just a cold, clear certainty. I locked my phone and set it face down. I'm done, I said softly. I'm not arguing with her anymore. Kyle slid his hand into mine, squeezing gently. Good. We said what needed to be said. Let her spin it however she wants. I know the truth. You know the truth. Dad knows the truth. The next morning, Jessica's name popped up on my phone with a long, frantic essay of a message. You've destroyed this family. You manipulated Kyle into turning on Mom. You've ruined my holidays on top of my marriage. You will regret this. I didn't read past the first few lines. I deleted the notification and put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Later that day, Kyle told me something else he'd heard from his father. Jessica's husband had officially filed for divorce and moved out. Her parents, tired of her demands and drama, had told her she couldn't just move back in and expect them to bankroll her life. Her safety nets were disappearing, one by one. For a flicker of a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered the message where she'd dismissed my baby's existence as too much noise and blamed me for everything that had gone wrong in her life. Consequences, I thought, are not cruelty. They're gravity. We spent the next few days in a strange, tense calm. No invitations. No group chats, no schedules, just the three of us in our small apartment, slowly realizing that maybe this year the holidays weren't going to be about appeasing anyone. They might actually be about us. And then Kyle turned to me one evening, eyes bright with a new idea. What if, he said slowly, we don't let them ruin this holiday? What if we build our own? Kyle's question hung in the air, soft but electric. What if we build our own? For a moment I didn't answer. I just watched him. Our tiny living room glowing with the warm light of the lamp, Lily asleep in her swing, the smell of microwaved leftover pasta still lingering in the air. His eyes were hopeful, almost defiant, as if he'd finally realized something important. We didn't need permission to have a holiday. We didn't need a schedule or rules or Karen's approval. We didn't need to tiptoe around Jessica's emotional storms. We could choose peace. We could choose people who loved us. We could choose each other. I felt something soften inside me. Yeah, I whispered. Let's build our own. Kyle smiled, the first real smile I'd seen on him in days. Then let's do it. Let's invite people who actually want to be around us. Who's that? I asked, half teasing. The barista from the coffee shop downstairs? He laughed. I was thinking, Rachel? Maybe Mark? I blinked. Mark, as in Jessica's Mark? Kyle shrugged. He's been through hell with her too. And honestly, he's always been a good friend. Mom hates that we stayed close after their divorce, but, well... He gestured vaguely toward the chaos vibrating from our phones. Seems fitting. It did. It really did. I thought back to the times I'd met Mark. Quiet, steady, empathetic, in a way Jessica never appreciated. I remembered them as a couple, her snapping orders, him smoothing things over with practiced patience. Word was, he'd finally stopped trying to fix her and chosen to save himself instead. Okay, I said, invite him. Kyle grinned, already typing. And Rachel? He added. Rachel was one of Kyle's cousins, one of the few who never got sucked up Karen's vortex. She showed up when she wanted to, left when she felt like it, and couldn't have cared less about portion sizes or seating charts. I'd always liked her. Yes, I said immediately. Invite Rachel. Kyle's smile widened. And Dad. Dave, I blinked. Are you sure? He needs a break from Mom, Kyle said simply. And he deserves to spend the holiday around people who don't treat him like he's invisible. My chest tightened, not in fear, but in something else, something almost hopeful. We didn't need Karen's approval. We would build something new. Kyle sent the texts one by one. Rachel replied first. Yes! What should I bring? Wine, food, chaos? Mark's was next. Thank you for thinking of me. I'd really appreciate the company. And Dave, he didn't respond right away. But when he did, it was a single, simple message. I'll be there. Just tell me when. Kyle exhaled slowly, shoulders dropping with relief. Okay, he murmured. Okay, this might actually work. The next few days passed in a blur. Kyle went grocery shopping with Lily strapped to his chest like a drooling, vaguely unimpressed koala. I cleaned the apartment with a ferocity usually reserved for surprise landlord visits. Rachel swung by early with a box of ingredients and a bag of wine bottles, announcing, "If Karen sees me post about this online, she'll spontaneously combust. Let's make it worth it." She was sunshine in combat boots. She threw her coat on the couch, scooped up Lily like she was a prize she'd just won, and said, "Finally, a real baby. Not Jessica crying into her champagne flute." I snorted. "Please, don't encourage me to enjoy that visual." "Oh, enjoy it," Rachel said. "She deserves a little gravity." I didn't disagree. An hour later, the doorbell rang, and Mark stepped inside. He looked tired, but there was a grateful softness in his eyes when he saw us. "Thanks for inviting me," he said, holding a Tupperware container awkwardly. "I brought mashed potatoes. They're not fancy, but they're mine." I smiled warmly. "I'm sure they're perfect." "They're better than perfect," Rachel declared, already pulling foil back. "Let's taste test." Mark laughed, the tension in his shoulders easing. Then, a little while later, the doorbell rang again. Kyle opened the door, and there was Dave, hands in his pockets, looking older than I remembered, but also strangely lighter. "Hey, Dad," Kyle said quietly. "Hey, son." Dave stepped forward and hugged him. A long, real hug, not the stiff ones I'd seen at past family holidays. Then he stepped inside and met my eyes. "Naomi," his voice was gentle. "Thank you for having me." I swallowed. "Thank you for standing up for us." A shadow passed over his expression. Regret, maybe, but he nodded. "I should have done it sooner," he said simply. Once everyone settled in, something unexpected happened. The tension dissolved. There was no drama, no tight smiles, no competitive small talk, no whispered judgments. Just warmth. Real warmth. Kyle and Mark stood shoulder to shoulder in the kitchen, peeling vegetables and talking like old friends. Rachel danced around with Lily on her hip, stopping only to take holiday selfies with her. Dave settled into our armchair, watching everything with a soft, almost wistful expression, like he was seeing, for the first time, what a holiday could look like without the pressure of perfection. And I moved through the room feeling lighter than I had in months. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't elaborate. There were no assigned seats, no designated photo backdrop, no curated playlist. But there was laughter. There was comfort. There was space to breathe. At one point, Rachel looked around the room, grinning like a kid who'd gotten away with something huge. Karen would die if she saw this, she whispered to me. I smirked. Should we send her a picture? She gasped dramatically. Naomi, you're corrupted. I love it. Mark, overhearing, chuckled. I won't stop you. Even Dave cracked a smile. She'd survive, he said, but she'd hate that we were having a good time without her. It was the most direct, unfiltered thing I'd ever heard him say about his wife, and I realized, with a jolt, that he wasn't just showing up for us. He was choosing a different kind of holiday for himself, too. Dinner was simple but perfect. Rachel's stuffing, Mark's mashed potatoes, Kyle's roast chicken, because, as he proudly announced, turkey is dead to me after Mom's chore lists. We clinked glasses, wine for us, sparkling water for Dave, and for a moment, everything was still. I looked around the table. Lily was asleep in her little bouncer. Rachel was laughing at something Kyle said. Mark looked like he'd been given a reprieve from a life sentence. Dave watched all of us, like he was quietly cataloging a memory he never wanted to forget. Kyle reached for my hand under the table and squeezed. You good? He murmured. I nodded, throat tight. Yeah, I whispered. I'm really good. For the first time in my adult life, I didn't feel like a visitor in someone else's holiday. I felt like I belonged, like this little mismatched group belonged, like we had created something new, something ours, something worth protecting. And as the night drew on, a quiet, steady realization sank in. You don't need a perfect family to have a perfect holiday. You just need the right people, the ones who show up, the ones who choose you, the ones who stay.